Nigeria needs to shave its interest rate. Now they said they need more time for the manifestation of the key economic variables. Michael.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad you asked me that, actually, because I like what Peter was saying about the tone of the committee. And yes, we do agree that holding rates was the most obvious choice. But what is a bit surprising is how similar the rhetoric at this meeting is to, say, the meeting from July or September in 2017. And that's a bit surprising because by a lot of accounts, especially what the governor himself said, quite a bit has changed on the macro front, right? So with inflation, that's down almost 5% in the last 9 months. You have the countries out of a recession, you have reserves, you have FX stability and so on. And whereas, yes, holding makes sense now, the narrative so far has been, okay, when do we want to ease? Even the way they've signaled easing in the fixed income markets in the last 6 months suggests again that that's the path that they are heading towards. So it was a bit surprising to see that there wasn't, in my view, clear forward guidance on when they may look to ease, particularly as come near the end of the year, you have elections, you have a possible hike in the minimum wage, and because of that, it might become quite difficult to actually lower rates. So it's, yes, we are unsurprised that they're holding, but it's interesting to see that the governor was quite silent on what their medium-term plans are in terms of rates.
Okay. Michael, thank you very much. Let's come back to Abuja here, where Associate Professor Uche Waleke is here. Thank you very much, and I'm sure you've listened to everyone. But what's your thoughts about this unanimous voting? It was taken as a no holds barred, whatever it is. That everyone consensus that the new members will vote but we haven't seen their comments really to know how they arrive and why they arrive at such decision. Yeah,
thanks, Boston. I actually wasn't surprised that all 9 members voted to hold the rate, not with inflation, still elevated at 14.3%. Inflation rate is still higher than the nominal, interest rate at 14%. And again, not with what is happening in the advanced economies, particularly the US, where the normalization of interest rate is taking place. That has the potential of instigating capital flows, away from Nigeria. If you also agree with me, much of the capital inflows we've had in recent times have even come by way of foreign portfolio investment. And the moment you drop this MPRs from, say, 14%, you further drag the real interest rate into the negative territory. And as I said earlier on, that could also see these foreign investors exiting to elsewhere. It's not only in the United States where this, this hawkish monetary policy stance is taking place. It's also taking place in the UK, where the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of England has also signaled intention to hike rates. Of course, in the UK as we speak, inflation rate is higher than the target rate of 2% at 2.7%. So the possibility of a hike is there, just as we have in the US. You notice that even in sub-Saharan Africa, some countries where their banks have even reduced the MPR. We're talking about South Africa, for example, where the Monetary Policy Committee dropped the MPR to 6.5%. It is because inflation rate in South Africa, has moderated to about 4%, from 4.4%, and it's also because in South Africa too, the value-added tax has been increased by 1%, and in order to also guard against the negative impact of that on the economy, the Monetary Policy Committee now felt that there was need to drop the rate. So what is important is that
what the fiscal authorities are doing and what the monetary authorities are doing.
Yes, just to make sure that the impact of that increase in VAT from 14% to 15%, does not cause negative impact on the economy. Yeah. So if you notice, whether it's in South Africa or in Kenya too, where the rate has been dropped from 10 to 9.5%, or even in Ghana, where it has been dropped to 18%, you notice that the Taylor rule, has always held sway. In monetary policy, if the the stance is inflation targeting. The Taylor rule is such that the monetary policy rate has to be above the inflation rate. So that's what we find in Ghana, where the MPR is 18% and the inflation rate is 10.3%.
Right now is the other way around.
No, in all these three countries, yes, but in Nigeria it's the other way around. So it would be dangerous to do that.
So we can't do the Taylor rule. We can't do the Taylor rule yet.
We can't do it. Yes, that's the point I'm making. That it will be difficult to say you're dropping this rate.
So we understand this status quo. Professor Waleke, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to give just about, let's give 1 minute of the remaining 3 minutes to go back to Lagos to Robert Omotunde, who is the head of research at AfriInvest. Take this entire status quo of the MPC to the marketplace for us. 60 seconds.
Well, for the market is not going to be shocked by this development because, of course, it was expected that the Monetary Policy Committee will hold all rates. Already, we've seen the moderation in the yield environment. Even though MPR is at 14%, we've always had the position that in the last few months or few years in the economy, we've seen a departure from the MPR and the market rate. The CBN has gradually guided towards a reduction in rates, and that's why you're seeing that across benchmarks, whether you're looking at the treasury bills or, in fact, we are beginning to see rate convergence between the short-term interest rate and the long-term interest rate, on the average at about 13.6%. This is speaking volume as to whether it is the MPR that anchors the market rate or market players, decide independently based on demand and supply conditions. And essentially, that is what we've seen in the market. So for the market, the confidence will still be there. Of course, the outlook on inflation is that by March, for example, AfriInvest outlook is 13.6%, that we're going to record on inflation. Towards the end of the year, we expect inflation to move towards 11%, by the close of the year. So anticipating that
Robert Omotunde.
Yeah.
My apologies there. Three of you there in our Lagos headquarters studios at the marketplace. So I'm going to just very quickly, respectfully, all of you are from 3 different trading houses. So let me just give about 10-20 seconds to Peter Moses from Kodros Capital sitting next to you. What's your outlook on the markets on this? 20 seconds quickly, please.
Okay, I think for most sophisticated investors and traders, it will actually be a case of trying to fully analyze the tone of this decision beyond holding the rates. For instance, I think it will not be too much or too early to start thinking about what rates in the fixed income space will look like, say, in the next 2-3 months. When this committee, for instance, will meet in May, what would inflation be looking like? As Robert said, AfriInvest are looking at 13.6. Kodros Capital, we're actually looking at inflation at 13.5%. At that level, we actually think that there may be a stronger case for monetary easing. But then if you look at the fact that we are now already getting closer to the election period and you're looking at higher naira liquidity, which could actually put a lot of pressure on, FX, you may actually want to say that the easing may not be as aggressive as we would have expected.
Peter, Peter, we have less than 30 seconds to wrap up the show. Thank you very much for your time. 10 seconds. Michael Famoroti from Vetiva Capital, what's your take?
Well, thanks. So since we're all throwing in our inflation forecast for March, we at Vetiva, we're looking at 13.3%. So see how that comes in a week or so. But I think they're absolutely right. The market outlook doesn't change, especially in the short term. I do, though, think that in terms of the 6-month outlook, a lot of people may start reassessing their expectation of strong monetary easing between now and the end of the year.
Michael Famoroti from Vetiva Capital, thank you for your time today. Peter Moses from Kodros Capital and from AfriInvest, Robert Omotunde, and live here in Abuja, Nigeria's political capital, Professor Waleke of the National State University. Thank you very much. I am Boasting Namafaya, and we're signing off this first MPC Decision Day for 2018. I'll see you again in May when the next meeting commences. Thank you. Bye for now.